Serious, non-drinkers of Reddit, what are some of the main reasons you decided to not drink alcohol? Legit woke up one day super hungover, threw up for about half hour and just said I needed to quit before I do any more damage, called up a friend and gave him just shy of $300 worth of liquor that day. Too bad it was too late and I had already graduated college with a shitty GPA and no work experience in my field, but hey, I didn't die and let my debt fall on family, so there's that. My mother is an alcoholic, her parents were too and died because of it in their early 60s. My uncle is an alcoholic who physically assaulted family members during a visit a few years ago because he was completely drunk, and my half-brother dad drank himself to death voluntarily. I have no good memories associated with alcohol. It ranges from my mom getting drunk in the evening in the bathroom, passes by my grandfather's sudden death because his liver just died, and ends up at my father calling me to tell me my drunk mother attempted to jump out of a window to kill herself. I don't need alcohol in my life anymore. I have already seen and lived too much, and I'm deadly scared to end up an alcoholic myself as well. Sometimes I feel like I'm running against the clock and I need to accomplish as much as possible before I start drinking and end up like my mother, so I'm not drinking. Have family members who are alcoholic. They ruined so many family gatherings, and I cannot tell you how many times a family member was sent to pick me up from somewhere as a child and they were drunk. Also, with alcoholic family members and the suspicion that alcoholism can be genetic, I chose not to risk it. It helps that I do not give a shit what people think of me, so I am not susceptible to peer pressure. I have no problem getting a soda when others are having a beer. I have found bartenders and waitstaff to be very supportive. You may find some friends and family have a tough time understanding your decision, but keep in mind, what you drink is none of their business. If they choose to shun you over it, that is their loss. I was a complete mess of an alcoholic from PTSD issues associated with the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. One day, I woke up and decided that I didn't want to be a worthless drunk anymore, so I poured out the whiskey and haven't looked back. This was a year ago. The horrible hangover, embarrassing myself while drunk, the awful taste and just a feeling like something is still missing. All those meaningless conversations that was originally meaningful to me. Waking up the next day just to see that it was all for nothing. It's pretty much just a waste of time, money and health. Didn't like the idea of being drunk in an emergency, didn't want to spend money on it. It's actually pretty toxic. Better uses of time and money, and better recreational things to do. I'm on a bunch of meds, and lots of them interact with alcohol. It just tastes like shit. I don't like the idea of having lowered inhibitions. The effects of alcohol changed over a couple of years. Instead of being energized, I was a sluggish zombie. Instead of being happy, I was cranky. The effects of marijuana then also changed over a couple of years. Instead of being relaxed, I was a nervous wreck. Instead of being chatty, I was really antisocial. Some people just have a brain chemistry that needs to be sober to maintain any quality of life. 12-step meetings are full of them. Why some people get away with much fewer consequences, I will never quite understand. I got a front row seat for my dad destroying his career and marriage, then dying in his 40s due to alcoholism. No thank you. I'll just enjoy an old cabinet turnip or refrigerated Novering instead of drinking. Terrible stomach pains, as in curled up on the couch for a few hours crying, digestive issues and nothing to fuck with. PSA: if you are out in the real world and someone politely refuses a drink or you notice they aren't drinking, leave them the fuck alone. I don't like how it makes me feel. I don't like to leave opportunities to embarrass myself. I typically don't like how it tastes. It cut my grandpa's life short, both of them. It gave my dad liver cirrhosis and he had to get a transplant. The people I know who drink casually usually don't share the same interests as I do. Today marks 3 weeks without a drop of booze for me. I was tired of being depressed, spending all my spare money on alcohol, pissing off friends and family, being bloated, and just a generally worthless person outside of work. It was an excessive daily habit for about 10 years. 3 weeks ago I was already drunkish before noon, and started to feel suicidal. I decided to check myself into detox rehab and stayed for a week. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made. So to answer the question, I like it way too much. Moderation isn't really possible for me with booze. So for now, and the foreseeable future, I'll go without. Vast majority of the time, it doesn't taste good. Even if it's fruity, it still has a burning aftertaste, usually expensive, empty calories. I am depressive, so I don't think a depressant is going to do me much good. 18 years worth of growing up and opening the fridge, seeing no milk, tea, juice, etc., but there was always alcohol, beer, whiskey, some cheap boxed wine, etc. 18 years of standing at the checkout in supermarkets watching as parents told cashiers to put back cereals, milk, and bread, to afford another case of beer. 18 years of having to be the oldest sibling taking care of others while parents are away partying all night long and hungover most of the next day. I didn't want to put my kids through that. I didn't want to be so addicted that all other foods and drinks become second. Alcoholism is really bad in my family. My uncle and stepfather have both died from drunk driving. My younger sister's addictions have ruined their careers. One cannot afford even an apartment anymore. Another has been in the hospital twice because of liver problems. I avoid it out of fear of what an addiction can do to me. I probably would become an alcoholic easily like the rest of my family. I don't want to put my spouse or kids through what I went through around my parents, and the best way to accomplish that is to permanently abstain from alcohol. I started down the sobriety road due to medical reasons and medication side effects, but to be honest, I have come to the realization that drinking is just a waste of time. I don't see issues with alcohol being part of an event or outing, but when you start planning events around the alcohol, it just seems stupid. Why go to Mexico for a week to get hammered? I would rather go to Mexico and enjoy the things I can't experience at home. Life is too short to waste. Don't like the taste. All beer tastes like shampoo. Never had any liquor that was particularly great. Never been drunk but hate when my head feels weird. I've hallucinated from some fevers and other things, but no drugs. Don't do that either. And I fucking hate it. Even if the hallucination isn't bad or scary or something. Maybe that's not what being drunk is like, but I don't care to find out. Have zero interest in bars and partying and getting fucked up. I like having plenty of fun, but the kind of fun had with alcohol is not in any way appealing to me. My father and his father were both alcoholics. Nothing terrible. They didn't beat their families or anything, but they were both dependent on consuming alcohol. The first two reasons were pretty much enough, but it is good to keep that one in mind, as I don't ever want to be like that. Not that I'm some super disciplined pure being. I'm a fetus who struggles with plenty of other vices, but no need to add another. I was raised Mormon, so was not really exposed to alcohol much until I was a bit older, which likely played some part if I'm being honest. But as I got older, all I saw when looking at alcohol was an expensive drink that can make you do something stupid. I am plenty stupid on my own, and I would prefer to blow all of my extra money on games, books, or figures. As time has gone on, I've thought, hey, why not really try some different kinds, and maybe I'll find one that I really like. But I think of how I'm with sweets and soda. I will grab a soda and without thinking about it will easily drink a couple more, or if it's a bag of chips, pack of candy I will eat the entire package without thinking about it because I like it. I imagine the same attitude could easily carry over to alcohol, so combined with the above reasons for initially abstaining, it just really doesn't interest me. I don't have a problem with drinking, and if people want to, that's fine by me. Are we going out and they have alcohol? That's cool. Party at a friend's house and people are drinking? Sure, but you want to go bar hopping? That is boring as fuck for me, so no thanks, I'll pass. Mom had done a great job with explaining what alcohol is, how it makes you feel, consequences, good and bad. Alcohol wasn't forbidden. She understood that someday I will drink and decided to make sure I know what I'm dealing with, so educated me on that, taking into consideration everything my mom has told me plus seeing the results of drinking, bad ones on okay ones. I decided that it's not worth it cause I simply don't need it. My views on alcohol were 1. You drink if you wanna have fun or relax a little. 2. You have problems that you can or can't solve and use alcohol to cover whatever you are dealing with. With number 1, I've learned how to have fun or be happy/relaxed on my own or with people. Yes, partied a lot as well, easily possible with no alcohol. Peer pressure of drinking didn't work on me, thanks to mommy again. She made sure I only listened to my gut, and with number 2, learned how to deal with stuff or take the pain, suffering on a sober head. Ain't saying both of them are easy, but I take pride in handling things the way they are and on my own. Worth it. P.S. Almost 26. Have never had a drink in my life. Does there need to be a reason? It's weird that we ask this of non-drinkers, but not non-junkies. I mean, I've smoked a mountain of weed in my life, but haven't for quite a while, and I couldn't give a reason why. It just doesn't occur to me that I want to be high. When I was very young, till the 5 yoctoseconds, my dad was very drunk and was mumbling nonsense and was almost awake, and I suppose it scared me, as I both remember it, and it is the first thing that I remember when people are intoxicated or are talking about alcohol. Sometimes I don't do so responsibly. Usually I do. Almost always I do, but sometimes I don't. So I've committed to stop altogether. The fact I usually, almost always, drink responsibly, has kept me from quitting outright all of my adult life. But I've come to the comfortable conclusion it's best for me to stop forever. I'm 49 years old, and I stopped a few months ago. I never hurt anyone, at least not physically, but I've disgraced myself and scared my family on a number of occasions. I'm not going to do that again. I couldn't find a comment about this, but as a woman I am always worried about not being fully aware of what is going on around me. I do not want to be drunk or even slightly so, because I feel vulnerable to unwanted attention when even slightly drunk. It's also terrible for your body in all kinds of ways, and honestly, I am not some diet crazy person, but I much prefer eating my calories in the form of desserts rather than having a boozy cocktail. Smile. I do enjoy the occasional Nel cocktail and glass of wine, champagne, but rarely more than 1 a month. It was strictly a religious decision at first. I've never tasted an alcoholic drink in my 34 years of living. I feel like I'm a pretty indulgent person with things I enjoy eating and drinking, so I worry that I might overindulge. I've gone this long through life and enjoyed my life thus far without alcohol, so I see no reason to introduce it into my life at this point. I used to drink more than I should for bad reasons, so I've been trying not to. 2 weeks sober woo, because I need to learn to drink to have fun, not to run away from things. I take antidepressants that said on the label specifically to not drink alcohol while using them. I've tried a bit of alcohol anyways, mostly before I started taking them, and it tastes so awful. And I'm not even talking about shitty alcohol, I'm talking beer in an actual German beer garden. expensive fancy drinks in Paris, $250 imported Japanese whiskey that my brother and I got my dad for Christmas that can only be found in the US in one store in New York City, etc. It all tastes the same to me, and it tastes like antifreeze. The idea of getting drunk and having a hangover just sounds terrible to me. I've never gotten drunk before because I've never been able to stand more than a few sips. Alcohol, drugs is an expensive lifestyle, and I can spend that money on other things like an expensive car or a gaming PC. One side of my family is very susceptible to alcoholism and addiction, and I don't need yet another thing to deal with. My standard answer to this one: I stopped when I realized that I could no longer safely regulate or control my alcohol consumption, or my behavior when I did drink. Unfortunately, it took a pretty life-changing incident to make me realize it. https://www.reddit.com/r/comment/give/comment/your/your_what_your_moment_your/your life/fqg3ib/861 days sober today. You don't just party one weekend and become an alcoholic. Alcoholism starts off like a hidden ember that grows into a slow burn. Eventually, by the time you acknowledge the issue, you are already stuck over a pit of hot coals. It is only with determination and courage that you can confidently hightail it away from the problem. I think a lot of people just get used to the fact they are slowly burning and decide it's easier to just continue with the flow than step up. I can't control myself. I always compare myself to the "if you give a mouse a cookie" book. If I have a beer, I'm going to ask for a tequila. If I have tequila, I'm going to ask for cocaine. If I have cocaine, I end up losing my job and self-respect. Easier to just be clean. It makes me sleep poorly, and I get bloated. Also, depending on the type of alcohol, if there's too much sugar, I instantly get a headache. Drinking is fun sometimes, but the side effects make it less and less worth it. I'm a hesitant drinker. My parents were non-drinkers. Supposedly my grandfather was an alcoholic, something I tend not to believe anymore. When he was younger, I didn't have my first drink until I was 21. For a long time I just didn't like the taste of beer or wine. That all changed when I discovered Moscato. I definitely prefer sweet drinks. I've since discovered a few mixed drinks I like as well. When I go on a "I'm not drinking" thing, it has to do with having a recent bad experience. The one time I was drunk was from drinking half of a prepared drink at a restaurant. Half. It was not intentional on my part. We think that the drink was mixed incorrectly. That was upsetting. Thankfully I was with myself and not vulnerable. I was initially a happy, giggly drunk and then a very upset one. It took me a while to have another drink after that. I have abstained for long periods of time due to the expense. When I spend a lot of time around people who are gaga over alcohol, like they have to have it constantly and talk about it all the time, I will also stop drinking because I just find that weird. I'm an adult child of alcoholics, so my sobriety is directly linked to my mental health. I've been sober for 12 of the last 18 months. I also gave up marijuana in any form. I have an addictive personality and tended to self-medicate with beers and joints. I burned bridges when I should have been mending fences. It started when I learned about the history of alcoholism in my family. As I got older, I disliked seeing drunk people and the ways in which many of them, mainly college students, acted when drinking. I decided it was just best for me to stay away from the stuff. I've never had a drink and have no desire to. As far as I have observed in my 25 years on this planet, the primary reason for drinking alcohol is to reduce one's control over one's own faculties. Among others, the ability to make good decisions and assessing risk. I for one am quite fond of above-mentioned abilities. Aside from that, I am mildly autistic, so I'm quite used to being terrible at social interaction. Expensive, tastes bad, makes me pee, and am a sleepy drunk. It's just a diuretic sleep aid, but I sleep just fine on my own. Then I get a headache and I have plenty without it too.